What's going on, everybody? We will get started here very shortly with our recap show. Thanks for everyone who's jumping over. Whoa. Therek, we're getting whoas before we even start.
Already? My God.
We're going to have to share some of the thank you for the people who've followed us before we even started. We'll give you guys all a shout out here when we start up the real stream.
Whoa. Absolutely.
For any of you
Many
watching,
thanks to go around.
Yeah. Thank you guys. For anyone watching this on demand on YouTube, it's probably gonna be about 2 minutes before we start up the actual show here. Give me time to grab a beer, get myself ready to go for some of the exciting news that we've heard. So yeah, about 2 minutes there.
Whoa.
Getting a lot.
So many woes.
Yeah, we're gonna be thanking a lot of people here. I'll be right back there. I'm gonna grab a drink. Carry the stream. Talk to people. Have fun.
Okay, I can do that. So what's going on, everyone? I've been unceremoniously led to the to the show to take over, and I need to get up and stretch too, because sitting there for an hour watching the dev stream is a longer than it feels when you're sitting in the same place. But yeah. I'm trying to talk to you guys, DM Harms. I see it. I know. The pressure was put on. I wasn't expecting the spotlight.
You weren't expecting the spotlight? Well, yeah. Everybody loves you. You can't mess up.
Oh yes, I can.
Just talk about me.
You talk so much that I don't have the opportunity to mess up. That's my secret.
Oh, now you're gonna throw that on me. You're gonna jump into the Minus talks too much. You guys hear that? Oh man.
Well, if the shoe fits.
Yeah, guys, you think you know someone. Never trust an elf.
No, that's right. It's good advice, actually.
Whoa. Wow, there's a lot of stuff going on right now. There's a lot of stuff going on. Okay, let's go ahead. You ready to get started?
Definitely.
All right, let's go.
Oh, we're live?
Whoa.
We're streaming right now? Cool. Awesome, man. Let me just,
Whoa.
Pantheon Plus.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 52 of Pantheon PlusYou. 52 episodes. Whew.
Crazy.
It is crazy.
Whoa.
And the whoa is going nuts. I think people enjoy it. I think we got the Japa smile that zooms in. You get the whoa. It's very when we were streaming some of the
Whoa.
It's still going. When we were streaming content, it's funny because like even when you're in depth in content, that sound, the whoa, it just stops. Like you're like, oh hey, someone, let's say hi. Right. So it's perfect. It's perfect for so many things.
Whoa.
It's one of those ones people want to hear, so they'll do it just to hear it, right?
Yeah.
So you really tapped into something there. I think you
it's fun. It's super fun. I mean, when it happened, if anyone remembers, that was when the controversial question came up of, talk about people who think that this game is an EQ clone. And Ben kind of went into an answer, and it was a good answer. And then he's like, okay, so let's move forward. And all of a sudden, Joppa's like, whoa. We can't just skip by that. So it has birthed this. I hope he's how awesome. Oh, look at that. Redeemed. Whoa. How did Neff do tonight? Real well. We'll be talking all night about that. So I'm going to give some shout outs here. Can we start with a bunch of shout outs? Because this is insane.
Absolutely.
Let's go with shout outs. I'm going to butcher your names here very quickly. We had Boppenlock, Robust Espresso, Gamane 20, Oops Z04, Vasilius, Story Charlemagne, Caliban. We had, that one's rough.
Whoa.
Granther. I think that's close. DM Harms with a sub. Thank you very much for that. Ziplocs gave out 5 community subs. Ziplocs, you are awesome. Ziplocs is a long-term community member. In the Rewinds comes and hangs out. He's I think we might actually be playing some D&D online with him when we get to that too, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep, I think so too.
We got Moober the Lurker, Boomsticker 1, Escape Reality, Bounty Code, subbing for 3 months. Thank you for that. We had a hype train go off. We got Kamikaze Gaming and we got Salty Cheese Ball, which is amazing. That's a great name. Salty. That immediately made me think of that bin of cheese balls you can get at any grocery store. It's like generic branded. You know what I'm talking about? Huge plastic cheese balls. You eat it for like 2 years. Never goes bad.
Yeah, no, those things are made of nuclear waste, I think. So yes, I do know what you're talking about.
They're so good. They're so good.
Yeah.
Now do we have Maya who is going to be looking at the chat. So Maya, we're going to bring you live. We're going to put her right on the spot here. What do you think? Should we do that to her tonight? Like without even
Yeah.
So we're going to bring part of the team. Yeah, so Maya Maya. I say her name different every time because of her and I blame her. But we won't get into that. Welcome to the live stream here.
Whoa.
She will be reading chat. So ping her, all you guys would like, to get any questions that you want us to answer if you don't want to come on the show live. But as always, Therek, it's about coming to the green room. So when the green room is bumping up there, we will drag you guys down. Once we get through some of the basic stuff that we're looking at here, kind of go through the stream and So
get in that green room, man. We need those crafters in the green room tonight because Minus and I are not knowledgeable crafters. We are base level crafters, and there's many people out there who are much more knowledgeable about crafting than we are. So we need you guys in the green room tonight.
Oh, that's solid. I got 3 pages worth of notes from that.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Oh, what am I doing? Taking notes? You're taking notes?
Whoa.
Well, yeah, but mine was crafting, so.
Wow, nice. Okay.
So spoiler, there may be the spoiler, there may be a crafting article coming out on Pantheon.plus. So so we got the hype train rolling. Thank you guys. We got a few more there that subbed up. We got Rathers, we got Salty Cheeseball subbing after following us. Wow, greatest name ever. Still sticking with it. Crow Song 33. Okay, so I took some notes. You took some notes.
Whoa.
We didn't film any of the video. It was just small videos. So we're just running the co-video behind in case you guys haven't seen some of it and want to see some of the newest, most updated Pantheon content. We're going to talk in depth about it. Again, ping Maya if you want, or Maya. I'm never going to say it right. Maya. Let's just go Maya. I'm just going Maya. Hey, ping Maya.
You could.
I know. Just ping Maya in the chat if you have a question that you want us to answer or go over. She'll be keeping track of that and jumping in case we miss anything. So voting. So we have the poll up. Tonight's developer stream was answer number 1 is ! Vote awesome. And it's awesome. It left me excited for crafting. The second one is okay, but I'm not sold on crafting. That's ! Vote okay. And then the third one is not quite what I was hoping for! Vote
Whoa.
not. So Sparrow, thank you for the sub. So we typically, you're the notes guy typically here, Therek. I didn't have a lot of content to capture tonight, so I have a lot of notes too. And then obviously, Maya, you have it as well. So I said it wrong again. Maya, you said it. You have notes. So we'll get it right eventually. I mean, we had 52 shows. It took me to get some people's right. So you got a while. So before we jump into crafting, Therek, I'm going to go over some of the patch notes. You okay with that?
Whoa.
Yeah, that's a good start point. Yeah.
Awesome. Creeper, thank you for following. Man, you guys are driving us almost to 800 followers tonight. I remember doing push-ups for 700 not too long ago. So thank you to everybody who's following us and being part of this community show. If you aren't familiar with the show, again, the big thing is we're going to go over some details here, and then we're going to turn the mic over to you. You jump into our Discord. You can hit ! Discord to figure out how to get in. And then you just jump into the Green Room channel. We'll bring you live on the air to talk with us and ask your questions and give your feedback. And we welcome everybody who's, as long as they're respectful. So voted up with 23 votes. Everybody is at awesome. But let's start with patch notes. That's how they kick the stream off. And there's some stuff I did want to go over here, Therek, and really talk about. So
yeah, sure.
Okay, so first one here is that they had the new projectile system put in for players and NPCs. Good. Hover animation. So they were shown in the co-stream where they were actually like hovering from the artifact, if you remember that. Yeah. It was interesting because they kind of went a little more in depth on the artifact. And remember, this is the first live artifact we've ever seen in Pantheon. We've heard about artifacts, but we've never physically seen one in action. So this artifact not only helped the floating, but it provides a curse protection and a spell reflect. So like if something puts spell reflect on you, it cancels it. That curse, or it's kind of crazy. And then had slow fall as well, which is pretty awesome. AI pursuit code was upgraded. I know that they've been doing a lot of testing on, pathing of mobs, stuff like that. Audio trigger system, which was interesting. I don't know exactly what that means.
Oh yeah, I do.
Yeah, that was in the stream. There was a lot of times in that stream, the showcase developer stream, where Ko would do something and a piece of audio would play. And we've seen that before in other streams too. Remember that scene from Halner's Cave when he looks through the hole in the wall? Fading Memories plays at that point. I think that's what they were talking about there. And that's awesome. It was very noticeable in the stream.
That's cool. Okay. Yeah. Good call. Pyrophobic was shown. And it was, for those that don't know, post refactor, that's the first disposition they've put in and showed off. And it's pretty much fully functioning. They did say, a little tweaking here and there, but we did get to see that, obviously. Improvements on the camera with zooming in first person like that. I know there's a lot of people looking forward to playing in first person. So
that's true. True.
Yeah.
It's hard to do.
Did you, Maya, did you see what Ronik said? Wait, this is my dastardly.
Cut in with it.
Yeah, this is my dastardly mustache.
This is the rogue stash, as you're calling it.
Yeah, I'm pushing really hard, Ronik, to get facial hair on halflings, and it needs to be something that looks like this. So I've literally, if you guys don't think that I'm trying hard to live this game, I literally have done this with my facial hair. This is a real thing.
Next level.
And Therek, I explained it to you. This wasn't easy. Yeah, I'm living it. See, DM Harms knows I'm living this. This is like 3 different shaver sizes. It's like a 5mm, 9mm, and a 12mm, and then it's crazy. This is a job. You want to talk crafting? Are we gonna can we be a professional barber?
No.
In game? Right?
No.
No. Okay.
No, that's not one of the professions is barber.
No, what we need to do is work on facial hair for you. That's fine, but no hairy feet for the halflings.
No, I'm not supporting. I'm not going to put my feet on camera, but I'm not supporting hairy feet. So don't worry. Just dastardly.
Oh my God.
Just the dastardly. So yeah, the dynamic tooltip system, that is huge. That's for someone like me. I'm sure, Therek, when you were reading through these, when they were saying them, the dynamic tooltip system is huge for me to show the actual changes in your abilities and the tooltips of the abilities that were live. So you have a debuff on you. Here's what you're doing because this debuff saps some of your agility. This ability is based on agility. So now the ability, you can see the actual reduction. And furthermore, you can see how buffs play out. And for someone like me who wants to math out, and I know we're actually going to talk about this on the rewind, which is kind of interesting that this kind of came up, but it's very interesting to be able to buff at different levels and add X amount of a stat to you and see what it does to your abilities. That really helps, as well as putting items on, taking items off. I really, that's a big deal to me. Tooltips. What do you think?
This topic was actually brought up on the forums a couple weeks ago. I don't want to say it was Goofy Warrior guy who brought it up because he noticed in a previous stream that it wasn't working like it used to. He noticed the tooltip wasn't reflecting stat changes, and so he brought that up on the forums and made a really well sort of thought out post about it. And there was a lot of discussion about this. And I think I'm glad they brought it up in the patch notes because it was something that a lot of people were, like you are passionate about this because you be able to see the real time changes in your through the tooltips from your stats. So yeah, very cool.
I think the other thing too is we had, you've seen in the developer streams that there wasn't a highlight over, and it was rough. It's really rough when you expect that. So it's a really big one. I don't want to spend any more time on that, but that's huge. So they updated how debuffs and buffs are shown on the NPC. That's interesting. One of the things that's been brought up in some of what we've seen is the crowded nature of all the bars, like the bars above people. Now, I don't mind the NPC bar from what I've seen so far, but I really want to be able to disable the player bars, get those out of the way. I don't need those and a group window, right? And I think that's what's clouding it up. And I'm interested to see, if they've cleaned up the NPC bar and then we can turn those off. I think you're going to see a lot better experience for the targeting and stuff like that. So
they said we're going to see it in an upcoming video.
Whoa.
I think it was Joppa said it specifically that, we're going to see this coming up soon. So interesting.
Awesome. Big thank you to Sherry Terry, who just followed, and Creeper X7. Thank you for that as well. So everybody's vote. Everybody is really excited, by the way. Puddle of Sick. Aw, go bad. Puddle of Sick just followed us. I hope we don't get sick. 24 votes already in, and everybody's voting for awesome. So that's good. Last couple things here. Really cool little. Who loves classes? Minus loves classes. We got a little sneak secret thing about classes. So defense positioning is now good. that's huge for me as a rogue, right? Because now I can be behind and I can stab stuff and not be parried somehow. So that's nice. But monks can block from behind.
That's very interesting.
Right? That is neat. Especially if you're pulling and running.
So like running away and like throwing an arm behind you to block something
you're just like remember Rafiki the monkey in Lion King when he was like blocking stuff from, remember that? That's the monk in Pantheon now. That's
interesting. I'm glad you caught that because I was a little confused about that.
Yeah, I have no idea how I pulled that Rafiki the monkey scene out when he hits the guy out of my head right there. That's how weird our brains are. So yeah, monks are supposed to off tank and be able to off tank. They're probably going to be naturally good pullers. So it's just an interesting dynamic for them to have some of their defensive capabilities behind them. So big, that's a really big patch note. This is one of the reasons I like patch notes, because they can say something very subtly and then it means a lot, right? They know what they're doing with those. And then obviously we're going to get into the meat and potatoes of tonight's show. And Therek, I'm going to turn it over to you for this and I'll jump in. But the base harvesting and crafting system was brought online into spec. So for all those crafting fans out there and everyone who jumped in here to hear more about crafting, our thoughts on crafting, and we want your thoughts on crafting, please, Therek, take it away.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's like Nefel said, it was the basics, it was the fundamentals, and listening to Nefel speak is a lot of it was reflected things that we've heard him say before, things that we know before he joined VR were important to him. So it's great to see that his vision for it is being implemented. One of the things that I really liked was that it's not being looked at as a side part of the game. They're prioritizing it. The adventuring and the crafting side is being prioritized. And it's not being treated as like an add-on, the crafting system. And I think that harkens back to something that we've talked about before on the Rewind, was when we interviewed Kevin Jordan, he talked about games that add features as an afterthought and they feel like an afterthought. Yeah. So I think that, Nefel got it across very clearly that crafting's not an afterthought in Pantheon, this is a main part of the game. And it's something that there's like the whole crafting community has been dying for, because we just haven't had any information about it. I love that we got to see it. I love that we got to see the forge and see the cooking a little bit, as basic as it was.
That Ronik, such a hardworking guy, just slaving away at the oven, right?
Yeah. I wonder what the description was like. Okay, here's what you're gonna do. It's like stand there, put this in here, click the button. It's like it's kind of interesting.
If I know VR, they were probably like, "Hey, we're gonna film you crafting. Good luck." And just then poked and prodded at him as he was messing up until he got something right, and they just clipped that
part. Yeah, I mean, but like I said, it was very basic, but you got to see what we sort of had an idea what we thought it was going to look like, because we've done crafting in a lot of other games. Yeah. And across the MMO landscape, I haven't played every MMO, but the ones that I have played, crafting is not that different in a lot of MMOs in terms of how it looks, at least. You're always sort of like combining ingredients in some way, and so we saw that. But it's about the details, right? So it's you really have freedom in terms of how you express it in the details. And one of the things we saw that I really, really liked was how important different ingredients are in terms of the outcome on the item, in terms of the ability to create items that are across the spectrum based on what you're putting in them. I think that's a great idea, and I think that we saw something, with the dust of prowess, right? And at the end, when we saw the blades, he compared the two blades, the Insurgent's blade of prowess and the balanced fiery Insurgent's blade of might, right? Which had a proc on it. So all that is like stuff that comes from around the world. And so if I want to make the fiery version, do I have to go to, a place with extreme heat, and gather those kinds of ingredients? I think it sets a pretty big canvas for them to work from, and I really liked that. What else?
Nefel did just say that they gave vague instructions to Ronik and just said, "Here you go, have fun with it." But they tried not to laugh as they were filming him, they said.
Well, that's one way to do it. That's one way to do it for sure. I love the interdependency. And this part I actually was kind of upset because I had to step away from the stream for a second. And when they were talking about the interdependency amongst the classes and the crafting classes, because I think again that's links to what makes Pantheon special, is that class interdependency, class identity, working with other people. So when they sort of came back to it at the end, I was pretty happy to hear that. So even though as your profession you'll be able to make most of the items, there'll always be that extra level you can take it to by working with other people, which is super cool.
Yeah, it's interesting. The direct quote was, as a
Whoa.
profession, thank you, Hey Mom, like that. So it's funny. I'll read a name and then I'll realize what I said after. But the way they went into that was, crafters are going to be in a profession and can specialize and they can live on their own, right? They can make more interesting items, let's say, or more specialized items by working with others. It was interesting, right? Because like you kind of went through the beginning part of it, but one of the things that stood out to me was crafting is not put all these things in here and make it. Now we've, seeing that we take a refined or a unrefined piece of ore and turn it into a bar, that's been done before. We've seen that. Mm-hmm. But the difference here with Pantheon is that you make the blade and then you make the hilt. Yeah. Right. And that they carry different properties of how an item is going to work. And that's interesting to me. Now, I don't know how that's going to work in other professions. My mind started to wonder like, okay, so for tailoring, how does that work? You have cloth and then what?
Yeah.
Thread.
Special thread. That's what I was going to say.
Material.
Yeah. Yeah. Thread and cloth. Yeah. So it's just interesting because I'm very curious to see how that plays out. It works really well for a sword. No, so for a breastplate, is it the plate itself and then the straps or the different pieces you can make for it? Are we going to be that in depth when it comes to the armor as we are to the weapons? Is the weapons just going to naturally be more in depth? There's just a lot of questions, and obviously everyone's asking a lot of questions about this because it's being able to make, there's not a whole lot of games where you make a blade and then make a hilt separately and then have to put them together. Right.
Mm-hmm. Desperate World.
Okay. All right. Yep. So it's interesting. What's up, Desperate Worlds? And Desperate Worlds, huge get. We got a dev group going on Desperate Worlds within a week or two or something like that. So Desperate Worlds, congrats. We're excited for that. We'll be there to celebrate with you guys. Ask the tough questions. So, was going to get to that later, but with you guys popping in, congratulations. That's a huge get. So excited for that for sure. But it's just interesting that you're making pieces to make the ultimate item. So there's this journey in the crafting, right? Like you start with an unrefined material, you make a refined material. You take materials you found, you put them into a pattern, a mold of various degree of rarity. And then you combine those items to make pieces that you put the pieces together to make the item. So it's a little more in depth for the crafting. And again, I'm curious to see how other pieces are made that way, but it's interesting. Definitely, it makes my mind, start to go through all these possibilities, which is interesting. So.
Yeah. Go ahead.
And he's asking, who's going to want to settle for the lesser item? That's a simple answer. It's the people who are low end, don't have a lot of money yet, just leveling up, and they can only afford, something cheap. They get the lower end, your higher, more paying customers, they get the better stuff. It's just how it always works.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Joppa talked about it near the end of the stream. You're talking about how you think of crafting as like a journey as an adventuring, right? Whereas in Pantheon, the end goal is not max level, or that like the real game doesn't start at max level. So in crafting, the same idea, right? You don't have to be a max level crafter to be like having a good time. You can do it as a low level crafter, and it's about every part of crafting experience having some value in it, whether it's early on, sort of mid range, or end game or late game, right? So.
Michelle's starting up again. He says one of the reasons for having separate components is that you might find rare or special versions of those components out there in your adventures as well. Just think on the possibilities.
Yeah, you know what? I was going to mention that. So you remember on the last stream, not this one, the one before, after they killed Hyoket, right? One of the things we saw on the loot was, and I want to say it was an obsidian sword hilt. I could be wrong. It was an obsidian something. So I think that's what he's talking about there, because that's awesome, right? Like, who wouldn't want that? Everybody wants to take down those big bosses.
That opens up a lot because you still have to take it and craft the blade for it, but now you have a special hilt. So you can see how that can tie into your adventuring very well, that you can get a special blade, but you're still gonna have to make the hilt. You can get, or is there a way that as an adventurer, you can get a special blade and a special hilt put them together for some crazy item, but of course you're going to need that crafter to help you. So it kind of goes back again to talking about how they want crafting and adventuring to tie hand in hand, which is important. I mean, like I said, I'm going to be honest. I've joked with Nefel a million times. I said, you make a crafting system that intrigues me, and hats off to you. I want to be in dungeons all the time. I want to be killing. I want to be fighting. It's very, very tough for me to craft, and I'll tell you why. It's because I do not get a lot of excitement out of gathering. Now, if I can do a lot of gathering from killing, hey, sign me up. But if I have to run around a field for 10 hours picking up herbs, it just doesn't do it for me. Like,
And you're doing it wrong.
I've very
That's
much
not
so
how you
been doing
do
it
it.
wrong.
No. You get the group going. Everyone's running around, and you have some people who go running off the left way. Oh, look, there's a flower. Oh, there's a rock.
Yeah.
So
not me.
Now, what if they have sparklies on them though? What if the nodes have sparklies on them? Because we saw some sparklies on the node. Yes, we did. Yeah. I think that's pretty fun. I mean, I have to admit, I love gathering. I do, and I love what I love about it is the fact that I could get a really cool thing at any given moment. Like 90% of the time, it's going to be tubers or grass or like something boring. But that 10% of the time, I'm going to get something really special and rare out of it. I mean, it's basic human psychology, but I love it, and I think a lot of people are into that too. Just the chance of a rare thing. I want to point out something because I know Darchius is in chat. He mentioned one of the questions was talking about harvesting, about being able to see nodes, and Nefel said yes, everybody will be able to see every node. But there was some thing that Darchius pointed out about the perception system functioning in a way that would allow you to only potentially see certain nodes through the perception system or something along those lines. And Joppa kind of confirmed it. I think he responded to it and said, yeah, that's very perceptive of you. So that's interesting, right? Like you want to sort of have those hidden things that not everybody can see. So I was excited about that. What about you guys?
Yeah, the top of hills and deep in caverns.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we already know that there's going to be certain areas you have to craft in, right? Like we've seen that already in Amber Fate. It's again, I just hope to make a very good crafting friend who I can go and kill things to find the rare things they need, and then they can do all the gathering. It's, I'm always poor in MMORPGs, but I usually have good gear because I go get it, right? Like, so crafting is a struggle for me. If crafting is going to be a piece of the game that means I need to craft to get the best gear, it's going to be a big change for me now. Luckily in Pantheon, a lot of items aren't soulbound or tied to you, and so you can resell it, stuff like that. So I'm gonna have to make some big time crafter friends and get some of those rare materials to drop off enemies to hand over to them so that I can get that gear. And again, this is no knock on FL. I've played how many MMORPGs? I just can't get into crafting. Now I do like the fact that I could see myself getting into cooking, because I do like this fact that you can customize it. So we saw Ronak making some trout, and he just made a regular trout, and then he added apples, and it was an apple glazed trout, and it had different stats and different advantages, for example. So
he also said alchemy as well, is the same kind of way.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So it's just interesting. And it's kind of also how the other ones work too, with like blacksmithing. You put in a different type of, crystallized substance, and it creates some difference. So there's just this, you get a mold, and being able to customize is neat. I do fear that when math kicks in, there is going to be a best. To me, it's very hard to think there isn't going to be. Well, and maybe that best will be, okay, as a rogue dagger user, this is your best. So that means that as a rogue sword user, this is your best. So then it's not saying that you're just going to make one thing, right? But I don't know how you beat math.
Let me disagree with you a little bit there, because I think actually cooking is the one area where maybe there won't be a best. I can see it in blacksmithing, I can see it in armor and weapon making, that kind of thing. But when it comes to cooking, now I've said it before, but this system that we saw with cooking, it reminds me of Breath of the Wild. The cooking system in that game is very interesting, and I think what you're going to get is that you're going to have things cooked for certain purposes, for certain needs. You want to go into a frigid climate, you're going to have something cooked that helps with that, with your acclimation maybe, or something along those lines. That's just a guess. But I think cooking is very situational in terms of what it produces. So there's not necessarily a best. There is a need and then a quality associated with that need. Whereas with something like armorsmith or blacksmithing, you're going to want, the stats are going to be more combat oriented as opposed to like a situational survival, I guess you might say.
Yeah.
So
maybe getting a hit cap, something like that with food.
Right.
So interesting point that was brought up here from Moo Valentine, who, by the way, Moo, hey, haven't seen you in a bit. He said, gathering is for people who want to hoard and or monopolize and sell stuff. Now, this was something interesting, and sorry, Maya, I'd let you get to this in a second.
That's actually the one I was trying to say.
Yeah, crazy. So, interesting. So, Therek, I mentioned another game to you when NFL started talking about, harvested materials like unrefined ore is going to be heavy. It's going to really limit what you're able to carry. It's going to force you to kind of go back to town to store your materials and then go back out to harvest. Now, the game that popped in my head right away with this was Albion Online. In Albion Online, the materials you gathered were so heavy that you would go really far away and you'd gather up as much as you could. You'd get on your donkey and you'd make the slow haul all the way back. And then you'd put it in the bank and then you'd go back out and gather again. And it's interesting to me because then I started to think a little deeper. Okay, so unrefined ore is heavy. That makes sense. I'm getting a big rock and I'm putting it in my bag. But how does that play for herbs or cloth? Does that mean that now as a blacksmith or a miner, I'm going to have a disadvantage in gathering? So is there going to be more value to what I gather in the mining? So this is the kind of stuff that you kind of really have to think through. Like, so cloth can't be as heavy as rocks. And I'm very simplifying that term, but I'm just very interested to see how that plays out. So this travel back and forth. Vandrad says you don't go back to town. You have your wizard just set a buying point. Exactly. I mean, there's tons of ways around it. I get that, but I'm just interested in knowing if that's going to be a heavier penalty for a miner than it would be. I can see a woodworker, same thing, but someone who's picking plants is not going to have that issue. I don't think so. Be interesting.
Yeah. I mean, who knows how they're going to do it? I mean, I think the principle is like Neff said, is they just want to throttle the gathering ability to some extent. So, how they do it and creating value and diversity of gathering as opposed to just gathering one thing, so, who knows? A lot of this stuff was to be determined. I mean, and admittedly, Neff said that, it's these are the ideas and it's not fleshed out yet, but these are the principles they're working from. So, whenever you get something along those lines, the details are yet to be seen, but the ideas are good. The ideas are there, right? So
I don't know if I missed it all, but was there any full discussion about the whole portable crafting stations? I know several people asked it.
Never answered it. Yeah.
Because what I was thinking now, if you had like iron or whatever, and you could do even just the first stage of crafting, maybe that could, of course, lighten the load. That might help out for like you said, for anybody mining. But of course, it also depends on what your primary crafting is going to be. I'm sure everybody's going to be like, well, I'm a blacksmith, so I'm going to mine, or I'm a provisioner, so I'm going to fish.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you need to make friends and have them run, run back to town for you. That's what you need to do. A little train caravan of a resource caravan or something going
on. The thing that's also interesting that I did want to bring up that I don't love current implementation of, but I understand it's very early, is Ronick to mine the mining node needed to equip the pickaxe. So I'm interested what you guys think of that. So now if I'm in a dungeon group and I see something, I need to literally go in and unequip my weapon and put the pick on, and then I need to put it back on. Is that too tedious gameplay? Like, should we have a section of our character screen in an interface that is our crafting equipment that is equipped? So like if we have a mining pick on, that's fine. Maybe we have to swap that for, something like a scythe that helps us gather herbs and stuff like that. That's fine. But should we have to take our weapons off to gather? Because I'm not a huge fan of that personally. The way it's usually works is that it's just in your inventory. So I'm just interested, like, what are your thoughts on that, Therek? Like,
it's a quality of life thing that I think has been sort of evolved over time. I don't really see the value in having to go in and change it out, but I think it's just a quality of life thing that's been phased out over time.
It
What do you think
hasn't though.
there?
Then I was playing Final Fantasy 14 just a few months ago. You got to swap all your stuff. You got to clothes. You got your weapon,
But
whatever it
you
is.
have a button to do that though.
Yeah,
Right.
don't you
True.
switch
It's a
between like
whole set.
profiles, right? Yeah.
hmm But of course, you
Yeah.
can't be attacking a mob. You have to stop, switch gear, and if a mob's attacking you while you've got your harvesting gear on, you're just kind of screwed.
Yeah, interesting. Do you like it? I mean, do you like that system? Do you find it enjoyable?
I don't mind it, but I will
Hmm.
say this: I'm all about the looks. So if my harvesting gear looks like trash, I'm gonna try to do what I can to make it look better.
I just think that it would be nice to have like if you want to switch to your harvesting deal to harvest, that's fine. But I would like it to be like when you're in your character menu, you have your adventuring equipment and you have your gathering slash profession equipment, and you can have different sets on. Now, if I want to do multiple gathering, I'm gonna have to change the item. That's fine. But if I'm in a dungeon and I'm killing stuff and a mining node pops up or a thing comes up, like I just want to be able to quickly go over that, get it, and go. Um,
Yeah,
I just don't know
kind of
that
with you there.
the tedium is okay. I'm not a big crafter, but if someone's a huge crafter and they mine 1,000 nodes, do they really want to be swapping their weapon 1,000 times? Is there a benefit to that? Is there a tangible gameplay experience
Yes.
that is fun to changing your weapon out for a mining pick 1,000 times?
Honestly, I think there's a big difference because if you're in a group and the mobs, you're all fighting everything, and all of a sudden the guy wants to go mine, well, now he's not helping your group. And you can't expect, if you're all out there trying to XP, and now someone's wandering over here like picking flowers and whatnot. Now you can't count on that person. So it does make a big difference because you got to stop and swap out your gear. Or there's times, of course, when you're in combat, you can't swap out your gear. That's
Hmm.
better.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they deal with that. It's
And
Yeah, I'm not bringing any. If you're a crafter, you're not coming to my group. So I'm just
hey,
kidding. Kill
that's
or be
fine. You
killed.
just don't get anybody harvesting for you.
I
Just
don't need
remember
to
that.
because again, Nefel is under contract. When he was with Pantheon Plus, he was going to be my personal crafter, and because situations change, it's not my fault. He's still being held to that contract, and we'll go from there. But no,
signed
just
in
kidding.
blood.
Yeah, signed in
Trasic's
blood.
got a good point. Trasic says, "What if gathering from a node is a longer process? Rather than just tap and go, you need to actually interact with the node choices." I think that was the plan, if I remember correctly. They were just doing it this way just for the testing, right?
Not sure.
I
I
don't
think it's a
know.
TBT thing as well. Kind of to be determined there. So
I mean, even the older games make you stand there and like wait a couple seconds while you're doing something.
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
I,
I'm not
I
sure if it's a matter of just waiting or if it's like a selection thing where you have to choose your, what are you mining for, what are you harvesting for, that kind of thing. So,
yeah.
Real quick, Ziplocs got into this. We got talking about this in Discord a few nights ago. Can't wait to escort a gatherer through a wild zone and silent plains to protect them while they gather. We were talking about this because someone brought up the idea of can it, crafter be a class? And we were all no, 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 because then we're all going to be literally just guarding that person through the zone because they can't fight. So that's a good point.
I
It's a
don't.
bad idea, I think.
I don't think that's going to happen as much as we envision that being a really cool thing. Like, okay, so like if your guild crafter never goes out and adventures and he's level 10 his whole life and we got to take him to level 50 areas, okay. But I don't think there's any benefit to a crafter just being a crafter personally. I just think that even if someone's a crafter, they're probably going to have gear and they're going to level because they're going to need to get to other environments just to gather safely, even by themselves. It's a great idea. It's a great concept. And I'm sure at times you're going to take a specific member somewhere who maybe they're not quite as geared to get that. That's completely cool and I understand it, but I don't think they're going to go there sans adventure gear and just be a nobody in the party. They're going to contribute. I mean, what if they're an enchanter, and all they do is they're mezzing and holding stuff? Like everyone's class role is still going to be important, whether you're a crafter or not. And I think they're still going to play. So it's, I get the whole concept of it. It sounds interesting, but I just can't see the world's best crafters not being max level with everyone else to these areas.
I've got 2 points for that, actually. Neffel says that's somewhat the plan, although it'll ultimately come down, of course, to what feels good and brings a little bit of risk while gathering without being tedious about, carrying somebody along. I'm going to say it now, because I'm going to have to work on it, but you will see very shortly an article from me on Pantheon Plus. I have a character that role played and crafted and did not adventure. She was a level 10 adventure and maxed out epic crafter. So yeah, I'll post that this week.
All right. Well, if you guys are good, I want to get to the green room and get some people in here chatting. You guys good with that?
Absolutely.
Okay. So let's go ahead and bring in, I see Moxie's in there. He hasn't been on the show, I don't think, before. So let's start with Moxie. Let's get him in here. Congratulate him on the big score there. So Moxie's is coming in right now, bringing you in. What's up, man? How are you?
Hey, how you guys doing?
Hey,
Doing
Mox.
phenomenal.
Good to hear from you.
Welcome to the show for the first time. Hopefully not the last. How are you today?
Doing good. As you see, we got some big news.
Yeah, you want to go a little bit more in depth? So what? I know you're getting a few different devs coming on. When's that going to happen? Do you have a date yet? Like, can we start hyping that a little bit?
Well, it's actually thanks to you guys. I actually was in one of your premiere streams a couple weeks back, and Neff was in here, and I reached out to him and said, "Hey, what's the process of getting you on?" It just was dumb luck that they happened to be doing like revealing their crafting. So it was just thanks to you guys and thanks to some luck.
That's
awesome.
great.
It's awesome.
Yeah,
do you have a date yet?
Right? That's the whole deal.
Yeah. Do you have a date yet to share with anybody? I think
we're doing the interview next Wednesday, so it'll be out like probably that, like I would imagine that either that weekend or the following week.
That's awesome. So please make sure you guys share that in our Discord and tweet it out and tag us so we can get you more and more. We'll beat the hell out of that drum right there. So that's
definitely
huge. We're so happy for you guys. It may sound cheesy, but that's what we're all about. And if we were any part of it, thank you. But you guys earned it. So awesome stuff there. So awesome. I love it. Great stuff there. So what'd you think about the stream tonight? What do you have to share on what you picked up from tonight and what stood out to you?
I think the biggest thing that stood out to me is the interdependency, that they're really going to stress that and looking forward to it, and that things are going to be based on each other and not, you won't be able to do everything. I think that's all super important in the crafting world.
Yeah, it really is. And let me ask you: have you played a game that's had crafting interdependency in it before? Because I'm trying to think of them, and I'm like I said, I haven't played every MMO with crafting in it, but maybe you've played one. What's your been experience with that?
No, I mean, the whole idea of like needing like a woodworker in order to make a hilt for you, like that's all new to me. But I think it's fantastic. I like the direction that Neff is taking there, and I'm really interested in finding out like where his inspiration for that came from. So part of our chat is going to be like kind of where did his ideas come from, because these are all like some of this stuff is super unique.
Yeah, I'll give you a little spoiler on that just because we've talked to him, but it's Star Wars Galaxies. he's a big fan of Star Wars Galaxies. I remember when we talked about that.
Well, my partner in crime, Sakari, is in chat, and he's a big Star Wars Galaxies guy. So
awesome.
that they'll probably be able to commiserate.
Awesome.
The game, it's funny as you asking that question, I started thinking too, Therek. The game that I remember having a ton of interdependency, and people are very up and down on this game. So when I say it, I'm going to get a little beat up, and then some people say, oh yeah, was ArcAge. To make major projects in ArcAge, you needed like our guild had a farm, and there were literally people, like 10s, 20s of people who needed to maintain our farm. It was the craziest thing I've ever seen. Like their job was to be a farmer in our guild, and you needed all these pieces from all these parts to make boats and to make all these different things. So there was a lot of interdependency on like building structures and building the farm out and stuff like that. So it was there was a lot there. I don't know if it was so much in the base items, but that was the first game that kind of stuck out to me for that interdependency was ArcAge.
I completely agree. I did our ArcAge as well. We did the same thing. We had 2 entire cities basically built from our guilds.
Yeah, pretty crazy.
That's very cool. Yeah, I always think of Vanguard when it comes to that, and building boats in Vanguard. It's the closest thing I've experienced to interdependency, where you needed people to make some people made the boards, some people made the rivets and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, no. Anything else, Mox, that you really liked in the stream?
I don't know if it's necessarily something I like. Something that actually concerns me is that he kind of discounted the storage issue.
Okay. Sure.
He kind of dismissed it and said, we don't think it's going to be a problem. And in my experience, you just tend to gather as you go along, and just it inevitably ends up filling up your bank. So having games that have had a separate, all right, you have X amount of bank space, but then you have crafting space that is outside of that and holds more is important. And then also having a guild storage for crafting, I think, is important because if you want your guild to support you, then you need to have the materials in there so that it just is kind of a like one is dependent upon the other. So I'm
Sort of.
hoping it's something they revisit.
Yeah, there's a reason silos exist, right? So you can store your stuff in the silo. I mean, but to be honest, I mean, I agree with you that storage isn't always an issue, and no matter what context you're talking about, there's never been an inventory that I haven't filled up in a game, right? Like, and they haven't invented that thing yet,
Right?
Whatever profession makes bags, that's the first one. If you want to make money early on, that's the one, the bag maker. Yeah.
Absolutely. And especially if there's any way that like if you can use that star material or what was that other special material he mentioned?
Well, he said star metal was one for sure.
Yeah, star metal. So if you could use like that to make like a weight reduction bag, like that would be like really cool.
Yeah. We were playing EverQuest 2 the other night, and the first thing we got were some extra huge bags, and it was like,
changed the whole game.
It's like, oh my, it changed the whole game.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, it's just interesting because I go back to that. Did anybody here play Albion Online? No. So it's a fun little game. It's what it is, right? It's if you play it for a little bit, it's fun. It's PvP in the end of it, so kind of lost me there. It's very, very heavy crafting, super like the most crafting I've ever played. And again, the whole thing was like you would literally get on your horse and ride out to a very far off place, and you'd fight for a little bit, and you'd get about 20 minutes, 30 minutes, maybe an hour if you were lucky of time to gather, and you're overweight. And you had to run back. And there wasn't a quick way to get back, at least when I played. So you got back on your donkey, and your donkey helped a little bit with the weight. But at the same time, you had to walk it all the way back, put it in a bank. And then the other thing, too, is that we don't know this for sure, but Pantheon is going to be, banks are going to be not global from what we've heard in the past. Right. Auction house and banks won't be global. So wherever you're gathering, you're going to store those materials at that bank. So now you have to say to yourself, okay, so if we have all this ore at this bank, I need to now find a way to go back to that specific place to pick up the ore I put there. It's an interesting game of moving your equipment from town to town. And I'm not sure that that's it was not a phenomenal experience in Albion. I think maybe crafters enjoyed it, and it probably, so as a non-crafter, it probably helped the economy in some sense because you didn't just have access to everything easily. But again, I'm not a big crafter, so take that for what it's worth. That's a very important part of my statement here, but I did not enjoy it greatly. Having to constantly go back to town or figure out where my items were. It was this tedious mini game of where's my stuff. So
where's my stuff?
Yeah. Again, don't know if you guys agree with that. I said as a crafter, it's probably a fun piece of it, but it was not fun for me. So
I don't know. I mean, games have evolved to a point, and I understand that Pantheon is trying to capture the old school feel, but I think some of the things you've moved away, like even EverQuest added in like a cross character bank. I forget what they called it, but you had like a couple slots where you could transfer stuff. So you didn't, because you used to have to like drop stuff on the ground, log out and log in, hope nobody picked it up. I don't know if anybody remembers that.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
that's terrifying. Right. Your internet didn't drop out, or your aunt didn't call.
Yeah, because we were all on dial-up then, right?
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, it was the character shared bank.
Yeah, exactly. So like things like that have evolved and out of a need and like taking them away to bring back just to bring back nostalgia may not be the best choice. So it'll be interesting again to see what's driving this decision to have localized banks and essentially making life a little bit more difficult and almost going to require spreadsheets in order to track where you keep everything.
Yeah. Well, and items being regional too, right? Harvesting items being regional too. So
I like that though.
I do too.
Cool.
I don't
like
mind
that, but
I don't mind the banking thing and the separation. I think it uses people to create systems in game on their own to make that work. I think it needs to be inefficient and it needs to be difficult, because if it's too inefficient or it's too efficient and too streamlined, you don't need anybody else. You just do it all yourself, and it becomes just a click, and nobody cares, right? So I know, you don't want to go too far down that path sometimes with some things, but I think this is one of those things that has value from a social standpoint.
There's definitely value. I think the problem is that when you introduce these things or go back, as you were saying, Mox, it just opens up a lot of other things you have to figure out. And as long as you dedicate, and listen, no doubt Nefel did an amazing job tonight on tonight's stream. Like amazing, right?
Definitely.
So you can tell he's thinking through a lot of these things, but it adds a lot more checkboxes. So, okay, we have regional auction houses, we have regional banks, and here's why, because it's going to add life to the cities. That's a great reason. Okay, so now we're going to introduce this crafting thing on top of that, right? And now your materials are going to be from different areas, and they're going to be heavy, and it's going to be hard to have a bunch of materials on you, okay? So now that's a new layer that you started with. Well, the reason we're doing this is to create living cities that don't die out. Perfectly great reason. So now you have to layer things, right? So there's just a lot of questions that come up with it. Now, the other side too is they did say the unrefined materials are much heavier. So maybe once you refine it, it's not that big of a deal. It's more that initial gathering, right? So
yeah, really good point.
All I know is if I'm gonna craft, I'm gonna be a guy making bags. Hopefully the materials are light, and I'm just gonna sell those until everybody has bags, and I don't make any more money. Then I'm done with crafting. So
everybody always needs bags.
That's right.
So, Mox, anything else before we drop you out and jump to the rest of the green room? First of all, thank you for coming on for the first time, man. Appreciate it.
Oh, no problem. If you guys have any questions come up in this that you want asked, either drop me a message on Discord or message me on Twitter, or stop by our Discord server and have a chat with us there. We're happy to try to work any questions in.
Yeah, awesome. You guys are doing a great job. Check out their show, Disparate Worlds. It's really, really good.
Please have at it with advertising in the Twitch stream right now for, where people can find you. Put the links in there.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Please,
we will do that.
Yep. All right, awesome, man. Thank you for jumping in.
Take care, guys. Bye.
See you, Mox.
All right, let's go ahead and grab, I think, Steve. Steve I'm going to call him Steve because that's the easiest one for me to say. He has 3 names. Okay. And I want to tell Steve that I enjoy the fact that he has 3 names. Because now, like, I can, Therek might want to call you, by one of your fancy names, but I can just call you Steve.
Darkias.
Darkias, Gala,
exactly.
Real quick, Nefel just said, just for Minus, all bags will now require the hides of giant cave bears to create. Nice. You can all blame him for that. So there you go, Minus. Look what you did.
It's actually funny that you say that, because do you remember the bags that we got in EverQuest the other night?
I know, yes.
They were bear hide bags. And what I said is, carrying that on me just made sure to tell bears, listen, you hang out around me, you're going to be a bag. So I'm okay with that. So Steve, I'm bringing you in. I love Steve. He did that. He had to do that for some thought of, if Minus can't pronounce my name, I'm just going to put Steve, because we went on a rant the other night. Like, what happened to names? Minus, easy, right? It's easy. It's a real word. So we're going to start making people, like, the names I can't pronounce, I'm just going to make a name for him. So Steve's already ahead of the game. So we're bringing him in now. Steve, my man, what's going on? How are you tonight? What'd you think of the stream?
Let me mute the stream real quick.
Yeah, okay. No problem. What's going on? How are you?
Great. Yeah. Hey. So the name thing, I put Steve because I'm 2 different names. I'm one name on Discord, and I'm another name in the stream chat. And then you probably wouldn't like either of them, so I just went with Steve.
Is it not Darkias? That's what I've been calling you.
That is actually the correct way to pronounce it. And the very first time Minus tried to pronounce it, he got it right, but then every other time he didn't.
Yeah, that's like everything.
It's not my name.
So it's like, have you ever dated somebody and you think your anniversary day is, like, let's say you met them on the 21st, but for some reason in your head you think it's the 20th, right? But it's wrong, and you ask them and you get it corrected, and okay, it's the 21st, right? But then because you had that moment, you can never remember which was the right way to go. That's life for me. Like, even if I get your guys' names right, like, poor Maya here.
So we know what's wrong with Minus's house.
Not anymore. All right.
That's why.
I'll admit, I've just never had problems pronouncing names. I'm actually one of the very few people apparently that are good at it.
Maybe we'll recruit you as a professional.
I don't think Minus is that bad.
Crafting. Things, so many beans that we got dropped that we all had to harvest. Or harvest is the correct one for gathering, because we have the proper names for a lot of the classes and harvesting professions available.
That's right.
And now they didn't explicitly say this, but it looked like the target they were going for is 1 crafting class and a subspecialty in that class, and 2 harvesting professions.
It seemed like you could also do. So it's interesting you brought that up, because it sounded like you could have the base of all gathering.
Say that.
Right, the base of all gathering, and then you could specialize in 2, but you could only have one profession, and then you would specialize in it as well to be different. I think was the final word on that.
Yeah, he said you could do one crafting type, but yeah, you'd specialize on it later on. And then for the gathering, you could do the base, like we said, up to a certain point. He didn't say what. And then after that, you can specialize on one of those.
Yeah, and that mostly, I think, is more looking at the game design perspective of quests. So I think that there's going to be quests, even for adventurers, probably, to harvest any range of things. So they want everybody to have access to all of them. But when it comes to harvesting the highest level of ingredients, you're only going to have 2.
Right.
Might even be 1. It looks like 2 is the target they're going for right now, from what he was talking about.
Right.
And it's interesting to me. I actually I was put everything up on a chart, and I'm looking at the different harvests because like they're all pretty self-explanatory. Mining does stones, metals, gems, and early on they were talking about like a sort of probably a loam or some kind of dirt you can get out of mining nodes that could be useful for alchemists. That's something they said a long time ago that might not still be true.
Right.
Then there's wood cutting, which is going to be taking everything from trees. Wood, most definitely, yes. But
it's going to be Vandrad's in the green room. That's going to be Vandrad, so he can harvest all the leaves and the fronds and the trees.
I'm thinking you're probably also wood cutting is probably also going to be able to get you some fruit, maybe some leaves, maybe even insects. Who knows? Harvesting is the least well defined. It looked like it's probably going to be where you get your cloth. Like harvesting cotton plants, harvesting roots. And it's also, you're probably going to get a lot of alchemy ingredients and provisioning ingredients here, like fruit. There's apples right there in the stream. Then there's skinning, which they did drop an interesting little nugget about skinning. They were talking about how spider eyes could depend on your skinning skill. So it looks like you're not only going to be getting skin out of animals. Skinning is going to cover all animal components out of corpses,
which could also tie into meat, right? So like for cooking and stuff like that. I mean, if anybody's a hunter out there, you kill a deer, then you skin it down and you cut it apart, and it'd be interesting if that's all part of skinning as well.
Mm-hmm. I believe it will be. And then fishing, fishing seems to be the narrowest of them, which makes me a little concerned about how they're all going to be useful to everybody. Now, fishing, there's a lot of things you could get out of fishing. There's like, you can get fish scales, which could be used in maybe jewelry or in alchemy. There's a lot of things that could come out of it, but it's looking like, of the 5, fishing definitely looks like the least generally useful one.
Well, I mean, in fishing, you have the actual components for cooking, right? So you get a lot of that, and then you get a lot of oils. So you can get oils, bones, and the actual meat. So I mean, those 3 things could play in quite a bit to a variety. So it'd be interesting to see. Yeah, I think that they have to balance it, because if 1 or 2 gathering are really good for a ton of them, and then the others aren't, that's going to cause some suffering.
Well, I can definitely see fish oils being used in like tanning and like for outfitters, processing
alchemy. Yeah.
And definitely alchemy looks like it could use alchemy's easy. You can throw anything in a pot.
Hey.
Did you say I should be an alchemist? Yes, you're right. Okay.
No, what I mean is that alchemy is such a flexible thing because it's not really rooted in real life. So you can really plausibly say anything can go in a potion.
Well, what's funny you should say that, because what you said, you can do it in real life. That's one of the things about fishing that I think fishing is like a special category of harvesting, because I don't know why people get so excited for fishing, but it's really just the same thing as the other ones. But it's something that like we do it in real life, and we have the same exact experience where we just sit there for hours casting a line, and who knows.
See, what's missing is there's not a brewer, like a brewer profession to go along with fishing. That's the problem. That's why I don't want to fish. When I go fish, I'm drinking. I don't do that in an MMO. I need to have brewing and fishing, and then maybe I'll be a crafter. Like, what's Minus doing? You want to come to a dungeon? Nah, I'm drunk out on the boat, bro. Got some good fish though. I don't know.
Sunburn.
That's
where
not
I'm at.
brewing. That's consuming brew. You're not even brewing the brew. You're just
Don't forget
Get the
consuming
sunburn now. You got to have the sunburn when you come back.
Didn't you hear that I'm poor? I can't afford to just be buying all this brew without making it myself. Okay?
There's a reason they call it provisioning and not cooking or baking. You're going to get processing beers and beverages in provisioning. I'm
That's
90%
true.
sure.
That's true. That's a good
Now,
point. Very good
can
point.
we skin elves? Can we skin an
Hey.
elf and then
So,
use all the parts we
I-
get for different things?
I actually had a question along those lines. I put it in the stream during the stream and they didn't see it,
I saw it.
or they didn't want to. But
I saw it.
they were talking about regional foods and
Mhm.
how all the different starting areas will have a different palette. And I was wondering if the ogre or scar would be able to get meat from humanoids.
Scars are cannibals. It's in their description. They're cannibals.
You're I see Vandred's in the green room. You're stealing his comments right now because that's the kind of thing Vandred would talk about. And he wants to be a scar and skin people. That's his plan.
Because like scar skinning other scar, that's one thing. Ogres aren't notably to be cannibals, but in a lot of other different games, I'm not sure about Pantheon Rise of the Fallen, but in a lot of other games, ogres are seen often eating other sentient races. Famously in EQ,
Yes.
there's elf pickles. And all the other different pickles with Boomba the Big.
Well, Manasven said, gnome fingers. They don't have fingers. Gnomes don't have fingers. So
No, they don't.
you
Gnomes
can eat
are
gnomes.
meatless. Gnomes are meatless.
Gnomes
Yeah,
are
right.
unharvestable. Yeah.
They're just gnomes. You skin gnomes for alchemy. So anyway, Steve, thank you much. I'm going to jump in. I'm going to toss you back. Anything last to say before we switch over to another green room?
The big thing I wanted to mention is that it's definitely looking like that some of the harvesting may not be as equally useful, and I'm a little concerned about that. And also that alchemy looks like it's probably going to be extremely difficult to figure out which harvesting skill you need to prioritize. So I'm very curious to see how they're going to balance that.
Yeah, I think that's one of the funnest parts of all this is figuring out those systems and how they integrate and how they work with each other and sort of looking at the little dynamics of it like that. So it's a good point.
All right. Awesome. Steve. Love it. Thank you. Have a good one, man.
On the way out, Raven says, we have an elf serial killer in the making here.
Watch yourself there.
Oh, it's not in the making. He's full on. He's full on. He's lost. He's a lost cause.
Well, for those of you that don't know, Therek and Micah were going to make an all-elf guild. So I went in and destroyed that. And now Therek's in my guild. So I already thwarted an entire guild of elves. So check 1 minus elves 0. Let's go ahead and bring Vandred in because that sounds like a great reason to bring Vandred in. We're talking about the destruction of elves eating other races. Vandred, you're coming in now. Hello, Vandred.
On my server.
How are you, sir?
I'm fine. How you doing, Dirk Dastardly?
Yeah, here, hold on. Do you want a little twirl here for stream while you're in here?
Come on, let's see you twirl. Let's see you wax up that handlebar. Come on.
Yeah, there is wax in here. It's pretty intense.
Nice.
Pretty good.
Classy.
Maybe that can be our sponsor we get down the road. If I can keep doing the dastardly mustache, we can have everybody buy Cremo beard products.
That's a great idea. I'm going to write that down.
Get a sponsorship. Totally.
Nice.
Totally.
Oh, man. Yeah.
Do it.
Yeah. So what'd you think, Vandred? I mean, I don't know are you a crafter? I mean, I don't know that about you.
I did alchemy in EverQuest because I had a shaman, but never really went any further with it until Velius came out, and then it was the Coldane prayer shawl where you had to take all of your trade skills up to maximum because that quest was just brilliant. I did some crafting in Dark Ages of Camelot. I really got into it in EVE Online because it was just everything was player run and player generated. Kind of had to do that. So yeah, I do it, but unless it's interesting and unless I can actually perceive or get some sort of benefit out of it, I can just as easily set it aside. So
right. One of the interesting things, the questions was talking about crafting quests, right? And how are there going to be crafting quests? And one of the things Nefel said was, there will be, but they'll just like adventuring, there'll be tasks, and then there will be more involved storylines, but they're not gating progression through questing. So if you're a crafter, you don't have to quest, you don't have to do tasks like that stuff, right? Like I know in a lot of games there, talk about work orders and things like that, and they're sort of the easiest way to sort of get your crafting levels up, but saying that that's not something that they're thinking about. That's not how they're looking at the crafting journey.
Just
Okay,
cutting in.
you could unlock higher tiers or specialized rare items for crafting through not only faction but crafting quests. For, let's say, you need to use the goblin forge at the bottom of some zone somewhere, so you've got to build up your faction with the goblins, but then the goblins just don't want to let you use the thing. You need to provide them materials or some, they've got a war with who knows whatever else, so you have to provide them with some weapons and blah blah blah. So yeah, you could tie it into a whole spectrum of different things that aren't necessarily tied to adventuring, but are definitely tied to your progress through your particular trade skill, if you so choose.
There
Right.
was
Before we
some
jump into
discussion
that,
about
yeah, I was gonna say, go ahead, Maya. You had something you wanted to bring up.
there was some discussion about that. I honestly don't remember if it was another stream or on a forum post I'd read, but that you had to get to the bottom of, this cave to be able to access this particular kind of crafting, God,
I know there was
station of
one in
some
Amber
sort.
Fate. There was definitely one
Right,
in Amber
right.
Fate. Yeah.
So if you've got to get down to the bottom of the cave or up on the top of the hill or deep in a forest or whatever to get to that specialty crafting station, that's obviously going to be, a higher skill level to be able to use it. While I'm thinking about it,
Hmm.
Nafel says, loves the discussion tonight. He's even bringing up about our concerns that everyone's bringing up. He's happy to hear it, even though he can't talk about it right away. But he's being engaged with the community and, trying to build up a game for all of us to enjoy. So, as you can tell, he's keeping up with this, which is really good.
Hmm.
I
So
will,
so Vandred,
yeah.
go ahead, Minus.
No, go.
I was just going to ask Vandred. I mean, I know you have high standards when it comes to what you expect from these streams, and as you should, and always provide good critical feedback when called for. This was one of those streams where it was a lot of telling but not showing. Where you at with that? How are you feeling about that?
So I'm very supportive of what Nephil is doing. I'll be honest and upfront here. I wasn't that impressed with their decision to bring him on earlier. I did not think that, even though we've had lots of discussions on the forums over the years, I was concerned about um, his ability to bring something forward that is going to fit within this world. The things that he's talked about have been things that we've discussed for years.
Yeah.
Nothing was brought in completely out of left field.
Right.
So a
Yeah.
lot of it was like, okay, yeah, we've talked about this. It's nice to see that he's looking at that. It's all things that, boxes are starting to be checked, and nothing really stood out and went, oh God, I really freaking hate that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
So I
interesting.
liked it from that standpoint. And you know he because he said, look, a lot of this stuff is TBD, and we reserve the right to change things. Putting that up front as he did was important, but yet still the things that he said are a very solid fundamental, that foundation upon which you build everything else. And so long as those foundations stay fairly unchanged,
Hmm.
I don't think he can necessarily go wrong with the direction that they're going to take. For example, years ago we had conversations about recipes, and should there be a specific combination for every single different type of sword that's out there, or should a sword just be 4 ingots of metal, 2 pieces of coal, blah, 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 blah. And then you decide what materials to put into it. And should those materials then determine what your final outcome is, the different stats? And he was very supportive of that. And we see that now coming back to fruition,
Yeah.
you know, and it's such an important, or it's a great idea in terms of the economy of creating the trade skill system. And I don't mean monetary economy, but an efficiency in that you don't have to make 500 different sword recipes. You just make one sword recipe that says, for a one-handed slash can be any two pieces of, ore and, and that sort of thing. Like a meat pie, for example. You don't have to make a wolf meat pie and a bear meat pie and a dwarf meat pie, blah, 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 blah. You just say meat pie. I need two pieces of meat. I need some, vegetables. I need some, some dough and blah, blah, blah. And it gets cooked.
Right.
We as the players decide what type of meat what vegetables do we want and what meat do we want in there, all that kind of stuff.
What if we have allergies to wolf meat though? You come
bear-
up to me, I'm like, hey
Bear
man,
meat.
do you have a meat pie? I'm like, sweet, there's
Give
no
you a
wolf in this,
halfling
right?
meat pie. How's that?
A halfling pie.
I'll eat my own people. I don't
That
care.
would only
I want
be
to
like
see a
little
vegan
tiny ones,
I will totally
They're the little
listen.
tiny little things, yeah.
If it gives me
vegan
better
pie. It's fun.
stats, I'll eat my own people. I'm not against that.
Totally. Like, the comment earlier about the scars being cannibals and that sort of thing. I am fully in support of all of the races dropping meat. I think that's awesome. I want to see that happen. I want to be able to go around and kill halflings and skin them and get meat out of it and have some sort of benefit from doing that. Maybe you get
It's not
similar
cannibalism if you're killing a race that's completely from a different planet, right? Is that still
kill my own
cannibalism?
scar. I don't care. Eventually, I'm KOS of them anyway. Because why not?
Well, hold on. Let me stop you there because there's a point I wanted to make, and I keep jumping into these crazy things. But so you had brought up the talk, and they brought it up in stream that crafting will be tied to faction gaining, right? Like, so you might be able to do crafting stuff to hand in to get faction. So that's an interesting thing for me because that's something that if the path to gaining the faction I need is going to come easier via crafting than it would be just mass slaughtering, or turning in, remember the old crush bone belts. Everybody always goes back to that. I don't know why. It's always the one everybody remembers. But turning in the belts versus, crafting and getting my faction up. Now that to me is pretty interesting. Like I could get into crafting if it's going to be a big piece of factioning. What are your thoughts on that?
I would not want to see the crafting of items to turn in for faction to affect the adventuring faction, such that you know you don't gain. And this is going to let me go back. This is going to require factions to be a little bit broader. So the goblins in this dungeon that have their forge, there should be not just one faction for that entire goblin society. There should be a faction that is related to those goblins which only do crafting within that goblin society. So you want access to that forge. It's kind of in a separate area, so you still got to fight your way through or envis your way through or however to get your way through there. But once you're there, those goblins, because you have done crafting tasks for them, they are happy to let you use their forge.
I like it.
So
I
you could as a crafter gain access to the um let's say the market areas of Thronefast. If let's say you're an ogre and you're kind of KOS, you still can't walk through the front gates. The guards aren't going to like you, but you can take a back door through hopefully some sort of underground area, come up in the marketplace, do some business
Well,
because of the
that's how old Freeport works. Like as an XR
exactly right.
monk,
Yeah.
I eventually got amiable to all of Freeport, but I had to do it in sections, right? Like the monk guild loved me from the bat, but like to get through the guards in the lower levels of Freeport, I had to do certain things. To get into North Freeport, where there were a lot of paladins, I had to do something completely different. So I don't see that being completely far fetched at all. I think that
Not at all.
you're not just humans don't just like you, right? Like groups of humans like you. So I think that
Exactly.
that's completely doable.
Yeah, so flesh out make the factions broad enough such that it's not a one thing gives you faction across the entire board. You've got to work up one area first and then gradually work your way through other areas until the point that you might not ever get the guards to completely like you, but at least at some point they're not going to kill you on sight.
Yeah. So wrap it up for me, Vandrad. What'd you think? Will you give this stream a thumbs up, or is it in the middle for you? What'd you
Yeah,
think?
I'm gonna I'll give it a thumbs up at like between okay and awesome. It is the first look, so that there is some give and take on there. Um, I know at least for my guild, I've got a bunch of people that are very, very interested. So I'm looking at this from what they're going to be wanting out of this. I don't think that they're going to be disappointed at this point. yeah, so I'm looking to see what's going to be those next steps.
That's great.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, and Nefail, in case you're still listening, I will be available to help for free to come up with recipes if you're interested.
Oh God.
Hey, I was a chef for 10 years, so come on.
Can we have Minus's elf stew? Just help me with that. Just help me get that
Yeah,
in.
sure, not a problem.
All right,
I
awesome.
help. I offered with that before he actually joined with Plus. So
All right, you guys can put
I'm
your
better
heads
than you,
together.
though.
Yeah.
All right. All right, guys. Thank you,
did
Vandred.
not just say that.
See you, Vandred.
That's Vandred. He had to get that in. Let's get Sneaky Bard in. We have Sneaky Bard. We have DM Harms and Idiotech. So we'll go. We're gonna get Sneaky, then we'll get Idiotech, and then we'll get DM Harms. That'll wrap up our green room for the night. So Sneaky Bard, we are bringing you in now. Go ahead and unmute your microphone, and then when I see that, you're coming in. There he is. Sneaky Bard, what is up? How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, good. So what'd you think of tonight's stream?
I didn't catch all of it, but what I did see, I liked a lot. It's definitely interesting. I also, to your two comments that you actually made, fully in support with halfling beards. Please put them in the game. And the other thing about patch notes having interesting sort of kernels of information for us that could be even more useful. I think that happened in the stream as well, where we had the question about professions being sort of, are they economically balanced? And what I noticed was there's a thing where the limited sort of action bars and the utility belt answer that we got sort of ties into that, where in games or MMOs that I have played often, I like to make a lot of money. So I tend to go alchemy.
You want to be
because-
friends? No, just kidding.
Yeah, we could totally be friends. I mean,
All right.
I am bankrolling like two other people in my guild because I like making money, and the only way I make money is by staying reasonably not super rich, because then I get bored. So I need to have expenses.
Yeah. Minus expense. I will be that expense for you.
Okay,
No
good.
problem.
Anyway,
Negative. Sure.
I will be a sugar daddy. Let's put it that way. But in a lot of MMOs that I play, at least, alchemy is a really good moneymaker because, people constantly need consumables, at least for like PvE content. That need never goes away. But if we now have a limited utility belt, which means you might still want to have consumables, but not have the room to use them, that I feel could be a really elegant solution to like scale down the amount of money you can make with something like alchemy, which can sometimes become really rampant compared to all the other professions. So I
that
really
is super interesting, and I'm curious your thoughts and everybody's thoughts on that. So yeah, you just brought up a good point. This is something that I constantly talk about. I'm sure people are bored of hearing about it, but this while I'm not a big crafter, I do have value in the economy. And one of my big discussion points on the T word is that it helps economy, because right now we don't have now Joppa's come out and said that there may be quests where we turn items in, weapons in, or old items to go through this quest or task. And that's fine and dandy, but at the end of the day, people aren't going to soul buying these items, and they're not going to be tied to an account. That means that items like you were just saying, like swords and armor, as crafters continue to make them, they're just going to be more and more and more and more and more and more on the auction house, and more in the economy. Now, we've seen that you're going to be able to salvage items. Now, that wasn't talked about tonight, and I really wish somebody would have brought that up. How does salvaging of items, destroying of items play into these professions? That would be a great discussion point. Mox says, if you're still there, that's the one. Go into that one. How do we remove items via professions to get materials from them? But, so you brought up a great point when you talked about alchemy. Right. So alchemy, what's interesting about that is, okay, if I get a bunch of potions to up my hit chance, for example, I use them in combat, I need to go get more. That's a self-removing profession, right? So there's always going to be value to alchemy, to jewel crafting, depending on if you can take it out of the items you put it in, that kind of thing. So it's interesting because I'm just curious, with you bringing that up, do you have any ideas on how do they make it so that we're not overrun with all these blacksmith items, all these swords, all these daggers? Like, does it come into salvaging as we were talking about, or is there another way?
I mean, I could see that salvaging could be something where you want to leverage that as a form where maybe you get not unprocessed but already fully processed pieces of items from like salvaging, so that you can shortcut essentially the crafting process where you don't have to go out into the world. You just become a salvager, and that's how you get the materials you need to craft. The other, and it would be very brute force, but like Ultima Online straight up had like your gear breaking on you. That's how they remove stuff out of the economy. Now that's not very popular with players, but it would be a very sort of brute force effective way of removing items. I'd prefer them to leverage salvaging, for instance.
Yeah, they won't do that. We did a rewind a little while ago, a few months back, where we were talking about this, and Joppa was in chat, and he said there will be durability issues with items, but they'll never break on you. So
it could also be that, since we have durability issues that, and I don't know because I'm a little bit behind on all the news around Pantheon, but one theoretical thing you could do is that, hey, you can only repair for, say, gold in town with special vendors, but everything else, if you're asking a player to repair your gear like out in the field, you need stuff that you can only get by salvaging gear.
right.
So once again, sort of trying to incentivize you to break down items that you don't need.
Yeah. I think I really like what you said about balancing the professions, and your experience as an alchemist being a really lucrative profession, and how the limited action set can actually help with that, because other crafting aspects are limited, right? Like you're not going to carry 100 swords on you at any time, but if you can stack up potions and alchemy items, there's your capacity is much more. So I think that's really interesting.
I would like to see something that's crafted from your profession that you can salvage from it. So that'd be interesting.
Right.
Interesting. Thunder Giggles said, coming into this late, but I was wondering if anyone mentioned the following dilemma. If the food items, for example, are unique and offer different based off of what ingredients you use, how in the world are you going to be able to trade and sell them in a market system? That's actually a really good point. If you have like one food that has 17,000 names, being dramatic, how do you search for it? Like, so that is the searching mechanics on the auction house is pretty. I
think it's going to be like, it's sort of similar. It makes me think of Diablo, right? When you have a quality of an item, the name of the quality you're looking for, so you just put that name in, right?
Beastly something. Something. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you, Sneaky Bard. Good stuff. Really good stuff. Happy you stopped by.
Yeah.
Thanks, man.
Happy to be here.
Take care. Stop by again.
Yep. See you.
See you, man.
All right, Idiot Tech, you're in next. Go ahead and unmute, and then we will wrap up the stream with DM Harms. And I have one big grand idea I want to put out there, because I spent points in the channel to put this question up and highlight it. For whatever damn reason, VR never reads what I say. I think they have me blocked. I really do. I think VR has me blocked. So Therek, I might have to filter the questions through you from now on, because VR's blocked me. So let's go ahead and bring in Idiot Tech. Idiot Tech, what's going on, man? How are you?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
Hey, buddy. So what did you think tonight? How did you like the stream?
Yeah, it was cool. I went into it with, I think I'm on the same page with Minus in a sense. I definitely don't craft a ton in games. I like it. I'll do it. It'll be something I'll do, but it won't be, like...
It's not your focus.
It's not my focus. I feel like Maya, and is that how you say it? Did I mess it up as well? Can I say it?
We're going with that.
We're going with that? Okay.
You can go with Maya, that's fine.
Okay. Well, with that being said, I definitely don't dive into it as much as the people around me. And I think similarly, I'm very, very okay with just having like close friends that'll do it for me. And I'm like, hey, come help me do this, or I need this being made, and I'll give them a percentage. Like I like that aspect of MMOs where you're like, oh, I'll tip my crafter kind of thing. Like I like a game where that's a part of it.
Exactly.
Nathan, if you just heard that, Nathan, if you're here, there's your next song. You take the Witcher song, Tip the Witcher, or Coin for Your Witcher, whatever it's called, and you turn it into Tip Your Crafter.
I like it. Listen, I would even help with that one,
Yeah, you're a musician. You could definitely get the chops for that.
Yeah, I'll start coming up with it right now.
Nice. The guitar in the background. That's awesome.
It's always in the lab.
But no, I'm feeling what you're saying though. The social aspect of crafting is it's super important, because it's like you say, not everybody generally everybody wants to adventure, right? At least in some capacity, but not everybody wants to craft at all. Some people don't even want to touch it. So you got to have those people, right?
Yeah, and if anything, I would be more into gathering than crafting. As weird as that actually sounds like, I would like to be out in the world getting it. And I've been watching. I caught like 3/4 of the Pantheon stream. I've caught all of this, so I've heard Minus bring up Albion a couple times, and I played that too. I played it as soon as it was released. I had a buddy who was like super gung ho about it, so I got onto it, and I played it for 3 or 4 months, and it was fun. I feel the same exact way you do about it. That it was like, oh, it was fun. There's PvP. There's getting across the world, getting ganked while you're trying to like bring materials back. Like, it was definitely an awesome idea.
When Minus and I played Valar, that was one of their big things. Was
everything was crafted.
That concept was sort of central to their whole game. So they were building a whole game around that idea of because people like that. People want to feel needed. Again, we go back to class identity. I want to feel needed for what I can bring to you or bring to the group, or even just what I can bring to the world. It has to be something that makes me feel like I have a place.
So with that being said, then I wrote down like just 4 little things, not anything deep, but just that I was thinking about while we were going through it. One is, and it's something I missed from even something like Vanilla WoW, Burning Crusade WoW, is Pantheon going to have reagents for skills of sorts? For instance, in Final Fantasy XI, which is more my kin, my game that I think of old, the ninja class, awesome class. It's literally, I can't think of another game that has a ninja in it as a class. It has the ability to do shadows, and that's kind of how they tanked in the world. Is they tanked by dodging, and they used the spell that would put shadows in them, and then the monster would miss 3 times before the shadows are up. And it costed reagents, and you needed woodworking and alchemy to make those reagents. So there goes that interdependence already. You needed a pretty high level woodworking and alchemy just to make something that is used as a bread and butter for a specific class. And I've always thought
you're talking about the old like candles and stuff you would need for the paladin buffs back in the day, and the marks. I remember all that.
The onks and stuff like that for shamans, or I don't know. Little things like that I think would be really cool as a recurring, thinking about economy, just something to keep crafters going, because you're always
a Skinner would have to get an elf ear. You always would have to have an elf ear on you to cast Spirit of the Wolf on somebody, for example.
So something like that would be awesome. I think. So I don't know what your thoughts are on like reagents and crafting and those being together. I don't know how much of that was in EQ, because again, even though people call
there were a lot of reagents in EQ. I don't know if anything was tied to crafting. You guys would have to correct me if I'm wrong.
Well,
you had the eyes for
the fire beetle eyes. That's exactly what I thought of first too. But that was more of a harvested thing, like a loot more than a harvest thing. But it's an interesting idea. I think it has merit.
Having them craftable would actually probably make them more accessible than having to farm like 1,000 beetles. So I'd almost rather it be, because you couldn't buy them on vendors. Like in WoW, you could buy them on vendors, but in EQ you couldn't. You couldn't just go buy fire beetle eyes. So you had to go kill fire beetles forever. But if instead a crafter could make you a stack of them and you could buy them from him, rather than just going to the auction house and buying the eyes, like that's fine. Yeah, Malachite for mage pats, you had skeleton bones for skellies, bone chips. It was. So there was a lot of that stuff in EQ actually, but I don't think anything was ever crafting based.
Yeah, and lastly, I think I'll just say that we brought up storage a lot, and storage is always. I feel the same thing you did, Minus. I got like a little anxiety bump where I was like, oh man, the idea of like having different items and different banks and having to remember what was there. And like, I can see where it's going already. And it's not that I dislike that. It's not that to say that there's not merit in that being a system, but I just see the kind of like extra level of organization that you would need to deal with that. But I do like storage. Okay, WoW had bags, and then a game like Final Fantasy XI didn't. It was more like an inventory on your character, and that could be expanded by doing different quests or getting different items that were pretty rare in the world. So that was exclusive to that game. It was kind of like you would go from 30 spaces, you can go all the way to 60, but it cost a lot of money and materials for these quests to get to that point. So I kind of like storage being another aspect of building your character. Like just having extra storage in your character feels good.
Yeah.
So, I'd rather it be something like that. I'm okay with them not having bags specifically for materials. Like I'd like it to still be rooted in your character.
Yeah. No, it's interesting. And just even having different bags. Like what if you had a belt that had bag slots on it, right? So
yeah. Just incorporate it as a part of the gearing and stuff too. But yeah, overall the stream is awesome. I see the crafting being a large part. And even from the last stream where we saw that health drop, it immediately triggered. And I was like, oh man, I don't think I've seen a game that had specific things like that drop off.
See, and that's where awesome. And again, Nefel did a great job. I'm the worst person to talk to about crafting. We've talked so many times that like I would rather crafting be in tune with loot instead of separate. And I don't just mean for the hilt. I mean, if I get this badass sword of fiery goodness, then I want to be able to use crafting to progress that sword. Yeah. And I think that that's what's really missing that would make me craft. And again, I always relate this back to Monster Hunter World, which is kind of the funny part, like, because that whole game is crafting. You make a bone sword, great sword. Mm-hmm. And then you go kill this crazy monster 20 times to get rare pieces. And you take the bone sword and you turn it to bone sword +2. And I'm making it simple, but you can go all the way to +6 on that bone sword. Or when you're at tier 2, you now have a decision to add water element to it, to fire element to it, and these different pieces that take it down an entirely different path. And now I want to make that first sword again so that I can make the water variant. And I'm going to take that water variant, I'm going to progress that water variant. So it makes the original sword still valuable. It makes all these pieces I get valuable. I just would love to see that in an MMORPG, because we keep talking about making crafting items and looted items equal. Well, then just make it one thing. Make it so you have to get this rare item, but then you can progress that through crafting. I think that's what's really missing. I just really think that's missing in MMORPGs. And I think, again, look at how Monster Hunter does it and then think on a wider scale. That's the key, because now you're not making in place of, you're taking crafting and you're making it important. I don't know. I've been ranting about that for 2 years, and it's never going to happen, I don't think, but that's where I think the bread and butter's at.
No, I agree. I think, and not to dive too much deeper, but I think the only issue that immediately came into my mind, because I played Monster Hunter as well. I did buy the expansion just because I didn't know anyone playing it, but I played tens and hundreds of hours in that game. And I feel like the only thing that makes it different is the fact that in that game, you're crafting for yourself. So the economy of having 100 people all with that base item and it kind of becoming not worthless, but like less valuable is like where they'd have to balance. But I love exactly what you're saying, kind of building off the basic weapons to build forward. So
you guys see what Jurassic said? Careful, you're talking about horizontal progression. Remember, I keep saying horizontal progression doesn't exist.
Right.
Good one. You got
like
me
your
there.
best efforts.
All right, Tech. Thank you, buddy. Appreciate it, man. Good stuff as always.
Yeah. Get working on that song, dude.
Oh, listen, it'll be out by next Friday. I'll try and I'll contact me.
Wow. I'll tweet it out on Spotify. That'll be awesome.
Listen, honestly,
yeah.
All right.
That's awesome. Yeah, Nathan will do it.
Dude. That got me doing it. Venexia says, is there a risk to the crafting system might be too complex and involved to be, enjoyable and worthwhile? Neff went ahead and responded. There's always the risk, something we're very sensitive to. We want good complexity that adds to the experience, but we don't want to be so complicated and involved that it kills the fun.
Yeah.
Which, of course, is where everybody worries about that.
Yeah, he talked about having too many levers. So, they're cognizant of that.
Cool. And finally, let's bring in our good buddy DM Harms. So, Harms, if you can unmute your mic and headset, that'll show me you're there and ready to go. And you're going to wrap up the show for us tonight before I get into my big idea. Everyone must be really excited about the non-crafting guy with a big crafting idea.
Hey,
DM, what's up? How are you?
Hey guys, I gotta be a little bit quiet. People are sleeping, but I'm so excited.
Wow, good for you, man. You're fighting off the sleeping household to call in. I like it.
Oh yeah, man. This is there's so many like interconnected things here that I'm just like so triggered and happy about this stream. I mean, like a lot of people have pointed out, like it was more basic and a lot of talk more than, showing. Like what was shown was honestly like pretty basic, right?
Yeah.
But the implications are huge. So yeah, the biggest thing that I wanted to bring up is what this means for itemization and like they talked a lot about interdependency, and we already brought up the like hilt drop by Hayaket, but I kind of wanted to expand on that conversation a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I have kind of always had a problem with itemization in MMOs and RPGs in general, where you're just constantly getting loot that is gear that you just put on immediately. Where you kill 10 guards and half of them drop swords, armor, whatever, and so you're just overwhelmed with loot because you feel compelled to pick it up, right? Like it's hard to leave something.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
So with the idea with the hilt though, and how it looks like they're doing stat bonuses and subcomponents, has like huge potential implications for me, because I kind of imagine a looting system where you're going through a dungeon and instead of not to completely be instead of, but I think it should be a rarity that you get a full item that you can immediately equip. But instead, you're constantly seeing, little bits of crafting pieces that you can kind of hopefully mouse over and see generally like what kind of stats or bonuses that they're leaning towards. And then if you see one that's like, ooh, that might turn into a really good dagger or something from my guild buddy that crafts, because it looks like it's got like an agility bonus or something on it. So you pick that up, you keep it in your bag, and then you take it back to your crafting buddy who turns it into a sweet new dagger. The interdependence there is huge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that actually goes right back to the Monster Hunter idea. Completely.
Yeah, like I said, that's a great segue because this is something I'm like so passionate about. And the other thing that I wanted to point out, which I don't know if it's significant or not, but I noticed some of the items that were shown in the stream seem to follow a kind of prefix suffix system.
Yeah.
Which is really common in RPGs, but maybe it's just because I've been playing a lot of Path of Exile lately. But I think it's a pretty decent way to communicate what an item has. However, I would like, when they talk about the tooltips, it would be nice if the hilt said, some kind of text that tells you what it could be for.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's funny you bring that up. I have a lot of thoughts about that too. Itemization when you're talking about that suffix and prefix sort of system, we see that in so many games these days, right? Like it seems like we've really gotten away from the named item or even just like a category of item, like a type of bow, a bow made of elm, right? An elm bow. We've gotten into like the fiery bow of stabbing, right? Or whatever it is.
If you're stabbing people with a bow, this is why you're not allowed. This is why you're a ranger and you're not allowed to be a rogue. Just want to be clear.
That's right. Well, yes.
Yeah.
Be that as it may.
Imagine Therek running around stabbing things with his bow.
Yeah, you won't have to imagine. You'll experience it. You won't have to imagine it. Anyway, DM, what did you have to say?
And just to respond to Darkias here, I want to make clear, I think the whole, dropping subcomponents, I think that should be more normal, but then it also actually makes when you find a full item all that more special. So I kind of feel like, I don't want to say one or the other, but I think it should be more rare that a full item drop, A, because it's more special, but B, because you want that like variety as you're going through a dungeon. I actually made a note here just that like, you don't have to loot everything. I feel like it should be commonplace to look at a body or, whatever that you just killed and see, maybe even several things on it and just a quick mouse over and be like, oh, nothing really suits the kind of stuff that I'd like to be crafted with it. But I think that's a lot more immersive than, just constantly getting full items. And again, that whole interdependency thing.
Well, it would certainly put the crafting system foremost, right? It would make the crafting system the primary sort of looting mechanism, and it would take the just looting items, going into a dungeon for a specific item, sort of put that a little bit more in the background. I think if they did a system like that, I can see what you're saying.
Right.
I get what you're saying. I'm not sure I would fully want that.
You know how you do it?
To be as prominent.
Just do it in a way that makes sense. You kill a humanoid, you get full piece items. You kill, or at least broken items, and you kill spiders, you get pieces. Like, why am I getting a sword off a spider?
Right. I totally agree. But I think there should be components of a spider that have the potential to drop that you can use to make a sword. And they did mention a lot about how, harvesting in general and crafting, different crafters will be able to make basic things of their own, but have that, need to communicate with other crafters to make a really good item. And I think that should apply to loot too, in a way that makes sense, like you said, Minus.
Yeah. Good stuff, man. Good stuff. Anything else before we jump to my great idea on crafting that we're going to end the show with? It'd be amazing. Nefel, you can take it. Won't have to sign anything.
Maybe one last thing with the like different additions, or I not the prefix suffix thing, but like, a piece, a hilt or a subcomponent that has a stat variant to it, be it crafted or dropped. I do feel like there should be a certain value attributed to each bonus that something has, because they mentioned, factions and quests and stuff, and like maybe I'm making swords for a guard, and I think it would be a really nice addition to that if the stats that you get from spending a lot of time and getting good components factored into the value of the item, even to NPCs, so that, I could just make 10 basic swords, but I could collaborate with a woodworker or whatever and make a really nice sword, give it to the guard, and they'd be like, wow, that's epic, and give you the same, amount that you might get for just crafting 10 basic swords. Like, I feel like that kind of dynamism makes sense.
That's an interesting idea. Yeah, very interesting. I mean, how to gain faction, right? Another way to gain faction, another currency for faction.
Yeah, and since it looks like these stats and things are somewhat modular, I don't know what the back end looks like, obviously, but it's like it seems like it's pretty modular as the way they're going for it. And so that little tiny addition, I feel like, would put the Pantheon crafting like kind of a step above where other games are just static. I'm going to craft 1,000 freaking arrows, or stuff that everyone's just tired of.
It's an innovative way of doing it. I mean, and I know I think back to the you put that thing on progressive identification, that post you did a while ago. It was amazing, right? Like, very innovative ideas. So I really like it. I think you're onto something there.
Oh, thanks, man. Now I'm eager to hear Minus's idea.
Oh, you better be. It's a good one. Well, PM, thank you, buddy.
Really
Thanks
holding
for coming
it in.
on and waiting to get in here. So I appreciate it.
Of course, guys. I love it.
Talk to you later, man.
See you guys.
Before you get into your thing, Minus, real quick.
Yep.
Thunder Giggles came up with an idea. We talked about this a while back, actually. Another cool idea that Thunder Giggles says, cooperative crafting. If you're making an epic item and required other multiple people from the same trade skill or varying trade skills to work cooperatively to make an item of renown. And we talked about this a while back, actually. I think I talked with Neff about it. The difficulty being, who supplies what material, and then when it's done, who gets the item without someone, running off with it and snagging it and basically, chaosing it.
Right.
So that would take a lot of back end work to figure out if they were going
almost
to do
have to
it.
be like a group leader, master looter type thing. Yeah.
Well, and the idea that we had come up with, a friend of mine and I were talking about it, and basically it could be, I'm commissioning you guys, and I'm going to put in I don't have the items. I just have the money. So I'm going to put all the money in, and then you guys can buy an item, but I commissioned you, so I get it. As long as you can make sure that commission is a locked spot, that nobody else can take it, it might work. But it's a lot of back
what
end
game
work.
had a big cooperative crafting, and it was for Blade and Soul. So when you had a guild, you could actually make a guild uniform. And so what would happen is everybody could go into this designer program and start designing the guild uniform you want by picking from all these different things and colors and textures and all this stuff. And it would tell you the materials that would be needed. So the more intricate your design was, or the better looking things you wanted to do, or the colors you want to do, would change all these requirements. And then what would happen is the guild leader could look at all the submitted patterns and ideas for this guild uniform. And then basically once you selected it as the guild leader, everybody could then donate those pieces and parts in to how they wanted to, and the guild leader could then make it. And then once you made your guild outfit, if you bought a generic guild outfit, it would look like that. And you could make a couple different ones and do some things. So that was a really interesting, it was something simple, but it was very group oriented, and you couldn't do it without a group because you needed so many materials. Like people had to gather like crazy, but that was not my idea, but made me think of that. So good stuff. Okay. So here's my idea.
Mm-hmm.
Very simply put, what is it called when you pick one of those 6 items? What are they called? Profession.
What do you mean? When you pick one of them?
Yeah, it's a profession, right?
Yes.
So
That's what they're calling it.
We all have professions, right?
Sure.
So Therek, your profession is yours. My profession is mine. We go to work. And being part of a profession, some people are in unions. So if you want to become a woodworker, and you're not a master woodworker, you should be part of a union or a training program of some sort. And you have the option to do it or not. But if it's a profession, then you join in to this group and you have X amount of things per week that you have to create and donate back into this group. And everything you do over it increases your salary, your weekly salary. Because in general, the main way crafters, if crafters didn't make money, I don't think there would be as many crafters. Yes, you make items. Yes, you do these different things because you enjoy crafting. But at the end of the day, I think a large majority of crafters do it because you make money, right? So if being a profession is making money, why do we only make money from the players, right? And this was kind of hinted on, so why can't we make money if we join Thronefest's crafting guild? We are outfitting their army. Their army is going to need different things every week that they need. You go in and you start making stuff and donating it in. And as you do it, you earn a weekly salary that you just get sent to you, like your check. And it's a way to level your crafting, get items out of the whole system, right? Because you're going to be giving it to these NPCs. They're not going to be there. Or maybe it even stocks local shops. Like if you're in a town, maybe the way you can buy these things from a local vendor is that it's donated in through the crafters. I just think it would be interesting to be able to just do your job and make money from it without having to be the crazy master crafter who's making these crazy things. You can do that too. I just think it'd be an interesting way to sort of start the process of being a crafter, because if you're starting at level 1, how good of a crafter should you be, right?
Yeah. You know what it sounds like to me? What you're saying is, you think of adventuring and there's PvE and PvP, right? Well, in crafting, there's really only PvP. You only have the other players as your targets, as the thing you're up against. There's no PvE side of crafting. So what you're saying is add in that PvE crafting so that you can have a static opponent, a static, target that you can always be sort of aimed at, right? Is that sort of what you're getting at?
Yeah. So it's not going to be crazy. Maybe I get 3 platinum a week if I can complete everything I need to complete, and I can push it to 4 or 5 if I really overachieve that week.
Interjection here, guys, but EQ2 crafting writs. That's basically what it was. You would do the crafting quest, get a little coin out of it, and you could do it every day. Just wasn't a limit though. You could do like 5 or 6 in one day.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of what you had the materials for.
And what if different unions or different cities, depending on what was going on with the economy, let's say the halfling city didn't have a lot of crafters, so they were paying a little more for someone to come be a crafter for that city. Now you get a better pay. Like, I just think that would be
Arcade.
really cool. Yeah, arcades
Yeah.
are different. Yeah. So and just something small, but I just think it would be neat because that's a great way of putting it, there, is the whole PvP PvE thing. That's a
Yeah,
PvE
you should do it. You should
crafting.
do an article on it, Minus. I know a good site where you could post it.
Where is that?
Pantheon.plus.
Oh, hey.
Never heard of it.
All right. Well, good show. I'm surprised that I could be that excited about crafting. So, Nafel, you did something right. You did a great job explaining tonight, buddy. So, great job there. I don't want you to think that my dislike for crafting is in any way, shape, or form a negative on you. You did a really good job. Got me excited. I know that Maya, you were very excited. And Therek, you were probably more excited than me, at least. We'll say that. So everybody, thank you so much. We have a bunch of stuff coming up. Please check out Disparate Worlds for their upcoming interview. That's awesome. We will definitely be in that chat to listen to the notes and annoy people. And then this weekend we have Therek, you have a lore video coming out Saturday at noon.
Saturday at noon, lore video on Visions of the Azure Throne. So hopefully everybody likes it.
Nice. So, and then on Sunday, of course, we'll have our rewind in the morning before the Super Bowl gets all taken off. So same time, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on YouTube. Join us for that. It's been a lot of fun recently. We're getting a lot more people showing up, so it's a lot of great dialogue. Therek, you do a great job with that. Thank you. I wish I could be there more often. But then after that, you guys can enjoy the Super Bowl if you're into sports ball. If you're not into sports ball, then I don't know. Catch up on some old rewinds.
Sports ball?
Sports ball. Yeah, that's right.
Sports ball.
So this was a great stream. It was fun having you with us, Maya, for the first time. That was a really good experience. Well done.
Great job. Great job indeed. All right, guys. So that's it for us at Pantheon.plus, Pantheon PlusYou 52. And like I said, we'll see you this weekend.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Whoa.